A decidedly odd couple with ulterior motives convinced Dr. Alan Grant to go to Isla Sorna, resulting in an unexpected landing. This is my review of Jurassic Park III. So if no one knows yet what I'm doing, I'm reviewing the Jurassic Park trilogy before Jurassic Park comes out in June. And I've already reviewed the first two Jurassic Park movies, and this is the last one I have to review. And after rewatching Jurassic Park 3 a few months ago, I would have to say that this movie is a little bit below average for me, in my opinion. The good points. What I've noticed throughout the trilogy is that the best aspect overall about the trilogy is the use of the special effects, the animatronics, the visual effects, and the sound design of the movie to make these dinosaurs come to life. And it's no different when it comes to Jurassic Park 3. Now, even though Jurassic Park 3 has more visual effects over the special effects or the animatronics, I still think that the visual effects were used well, and I thought the combo, the mix between the visual and the practical effects were done well too. Because once you see the scenes where the visual effects are used, it's like, oh yeah, they had to use visual effects for that because it would look ridiculous or it would look dumb or stupid, like if you saw it with practical effects. But when the practical effects and animatronics are used, they're used well too. The next best thing about this movie would have to be the editing. And this is the second best thing about this movie because it made the movie short and sweet and made the movie move along in a quick fashion. Also, the editing did a good job at making each scene seem important and fit right in the movie. And the editing did a good job at making it seem like there were no parts in the movie where I feel like something was wrong or something was left out. And really, other than that, the only other good points I noticed in the movie were several moments with the directing, the acting, and the writing. And those several moments with either the directing, writing, or acting weren't really special or really terrific. They were just good. It was just throughout the movie when I saw those moments, I was like, oh yeah, that was a little bit cool, and yeah, that was just fine. The bad points. The two things overall that I didn't like about this movie were the writing and the acting. Now, like I just said a second ago, there were moments in the movie where I thought the writing and acting were good, but overall I didn't see anything else good about it. There were just moments in the writing that made the story seem nonsensical because it seemed like the writer just made conflict just to move the story along. And I'll explain myself later on in the spoiler section. And between the writing and acting, I think the writing was more of the problem of this movie. But as for the acting, yeah, like I said, there were just moments where I thought it was fine, but as for the rest of the acting, it was just like And the same thing goes for the directing of this movie. And I forgot who directed this movie, but I think he's a famous director. But anyways, yeah, like I said a moment ago as well, there were moments of the directing where I thought it was just fine. But other than that, again, there was nothing special about the directing. And there were several moments throughout the movie where the directing was weird at some points. Another bad point about this movie would be some of the editing. There were several moments in this movie where the footage was sped up in some of the scenes, and it was like, whoa, like, why did the editor do that for? But my biggest problem overall about the editing is that the editing made this movie seem a little bit too short. But the problem is, I don't know what you could have added to this movie, because like I said in the good points, it seems like there was nothing missing in this movie. And the fact that it was short actually was a good point, but at the same time, it's a bad point because it seems like, yeah, there's nothing much to this story. And the only other bad point about this movie would have to be the ending, and I'll explain myself later on in the spoiler section since the ending has to do with the writing of this movie, and like I said earlier on, I would explain why I didn't like some of the writing. So my rating for Jurassic Park 3 is going to be a 1.75 out of 4 stars. Like I said, I think the mix between the visual and special effects and animatronics and sound design was good to make the dinosaurs come to life like in all the Jurassic Park movies. And I thought the editing was done well, and several moments of the directing, writing, and acting were good, but other than that, there's nothing special about this movie. But if you're a fan of the Jurassic Park movies, or if you're a fan of science fiction or fantasy, then I think you'll enjoy this movie. Alright, spoilers for Jurassic Park 3. If you haven't seen Jurassic Park 3 and you still want to see it, then get over now, because I'm going to be talking about some points of the story, and if you don't want to know anything about the story, then get over now, please. So like I said earlier, it seemed like the writer placed himself into the story because it seemed like he was trying to create conflict to make the story move along. Also, the writer did these small things in the writing that I didn't like either, and I'll explain myself in a second as well with those. And I'll explain these bad points in chronological order to the story. And the first thing that I did not like about this movie was the fact that Grant and Sadler broke up or something, it seemed like. The last time we saw them was at the end of Jurassic Park 1, and we didn't even see them in Jurassic Park 2. And at the beginning of Jurassic Park 3, we find out that it seemed like they broke up, and it was like, what? Why? It just made no sense to me why they had to do that. And it just seemed like a waste to me from past character development that they put in the first Jurassic Park movie between the two characters. And we don't even know why they broke up in the first place. They never tell us in this movie. And then now we skip to Isla Sorna when they get to the island. And the one thing I still wonder about the movie is why did the Spinosaur keep following them throughout the movie? Because once it kills the T-Rex, you'll think, oh, the Spinosaur will stay at the T-Rex since there's a few tons of meat there just lying around for it to eat. But no, for some reason it goes after the group. And I think the only logical reason why I think the Spinosaur is following the group is because it's hunting them. But still, it's the Spinosaur has a few tons of meat just lying around for it to have, but it'll just go over a few dozen pounds, a few 100 pounds of meat. It's that just doesn't make any sense to me. And is an instance where I felt like the writer was trying to make conflict to move the story along. Oh, and another thing that I didn't like about the Spinosaur was that it could go through a fence with spikes on it that was made so that dinosaurs could be kept out or something, or kept in. And as it chases after the group goes into this small building, it seems like. And once the group gets inside, they lock the door with these 4 or 5 locks that are in the inside. And then the Spinosaur tries to ram itself into the door, it seems like. And after 3 or 4 times trying to get through the door, the Spinosaur quits. It's like, wait, so the Spinosaur can get through a perimeter fence, but it can't get through just a simple door? I don't know, that just made no sense to me. And another instance where conflict was used to make the movie move forward was when that one guy, Billy, stole the Velociraptor eggs. And it's when the group gets into the building where the Spinosaur can't get in, when we find out that Billy stole the Velociraptor eggs, and that's why the Velociraptors are after them. And that's another instance where it just seemed illogical to me. Because sure, you can get a lot of money from Velociraptor eggs, but at the same time it's do you want to really risk your life on this dinosaur-filled island when you're trying to get off of it in the first place, and you want to try to get more danger towards you? And the last thing I want to talk about is the ending, like I said. Because in the end, they get the Velociraptors their eggs back, which I thought was a cool scene. And they get rescued by the Navy or the Marines or something. And as the helicopters are taking them back to the ships, we find out that Billy actually survived from the pterodactyls, which I thought was a little bit weird. Because I thought that if Billy stayed dead, it would have had a little bit more meaning, but since he's alive, it's okay, he's alive. And the one other thing I didn't like about the ending was when the pterodactyls were flying away from the island. Because once the group realizes that the pterodactyls are flying away from the island, and when they see them, they try to make it seem like it was a good thing or something, and try to make a joke out of it. And when the smooth sounding music was playing, and when the Jurassic Park theme was playing when the pterodactyls were going away, it's wait, so what, it's a good thing that the pterodactyls are off the island? I mean, when they were joking about it, and when the music was making it sound like it was a good thing, it was wait, I wouldn't be happy that pterodactyls, carnivorous pterodactyls, are off the island and going to the mainland because they're going to breed, and then more pterodactyls are going to come, and then pterodactyl population is going to rise, and yeah. And then those pterodactyls are going to attack civilians on the mainland, and it's yeah, that's not a good thing. But that's just another small thing that I didn't like about the movie. And yeah, that's all the spoilers I have. So other than that, guys, that's it.